Cool, cool. So, welcome to another video. My name is Mula and I'm here with Dan. We're here to talk about video and why it's really important that as a law firm, you need to own every single aspect of your business and also be present online. So, with that being said, this is Dan. Dan, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick and we'll go from there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first off, thank you for the intro. Thank you for having me. Excited
Mhm.
to chat with you. This is actually our first time chatting together, so
Yeah.
this is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you were saying, I mean, my name is Dan DeLeon. I own Sacktown Video, and
Hmm.
I primarily work with attorneys, and law firms. So yeah.
Yep. Fair enough. And the way we met was actually through Instagram. I found one of your YouTube videos, not YouTube videos, Instagram videos, and then I just slid in your DMs. I was like, "Hey, Dan," say it would be a cool connection to have, and here we are a
Yeah.
few months later.
Yep.
All
Yeah, and I'm
right.
glad that you did that because I think if I go back and I look at like our communication, remember the first question I asked you, which is like how do you pronounce your name?
Yeah, yeah, I get that a lot because a lot of people, the first thing they always say is like, "Is your name Mula like money?" And I always have to say, "Yeah." And what I'm saying, it's kind of a played out joke now, but yeah, a lot of people don't know how to say my name, so I just tell them it's just like the slang of money. So yeah,
For
yeah.
sure, for
So
sure.
as in like when I slid into your DMs, I was just like, you would be a cool connection to have because I was trying to learn about law firms at the time and I was picking the niche and I was just like, let me just see what he says and then here we are. So with that being said, we'll jump straight into the questions. And
Yeah.
then again, these are your own thoughts. Don't feel like you have to sound all professional and all that stuff. We're just here to learn about you and all
Yeah.
that stuff. So how did you get into video production? Like, talk me through from start to where you're at now, I guess, in short form content wise, basically.
Sure, yeah. So, man, where to begin? So, I'll give you like the 60 second, right? Or like I'll
Yeah.
give it to you. So, I mean, funny enough, I think it all started with a guy named Casey Neistat, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like like he came out with the vlogs, and I was like
Hmm.
obsessed. I'm like, wow, this is like really cool. This guy's life is amazing.
Hmm.
And just like everyone else, like I was into the daily vlogs, and
Hmm.
I got a Canon G7X, and I was like, I'm gonna be a vlogger too, right?
Yeah.
Little do people know that that stuff is super awkward. It's super
Super
weird,
awkward. Hmm.
and it's really hard, right? Especially
Right.
if you don't have a that lifestyle.
Hmm.
And even Casey Neistat, like he like built like a business before he started vlogging. Like he was kind of pretty
Hmm.
successful, like a
Right.
successful filmmaker before any of that.
Hmm.
Um, and uh, and so I that was around 2015, 2016, around
Yeah,
that
around
time.
there. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and so I bought a bunch of gear, right? Because that's what I thought I needed, right?
Hmm.
And I guess at the time you do need gear, right? So like a
True.
little bit. And so I got into photography, and as I was doing it, I was doing things for free, like on Craigslist. As I was
Hmm.
doing it, I realized that like everyone's a photographer.
Right.
Everyone, you like these iPhones, right? Like I have the 2000 or the 2015. No, this is the iPhone Pro Max 15, I think.
Hmm.
Like this takes solid
Good
photos,
photos. Yeah.
really like great photos, great.
Hmm.
And so I just thought, man, like that's really hard to compete with, you know.
Hmm.
And so I wanted to get into video to see if there was a gap that I could help fill, right?
Right.
And then so I was again just doing it as a hobby, not really making any money, just doing it for fun, but accumulating all this gear, right? Lighting,
Right.
cameras, modifiers, just like accumulating hobbyist gear, right?
Hmm.
And then I, people bring it up all the time, but it's true. Like COVID happened, right?
Hmm.
COVID happened, and my wife, who was, oh yeah, she was my wife at the time. We got married, and then COVID happened, and so she was laid off pretty much because she worked in the hotel industry.
Hmm.
And I said, and then we said, let's just start a family, right? We're already married. Let's start a family.
Hmm.
And I didn't want my wife to work. I wanted her to be a stay-at-home mom, and
Hmm.
so and she was happy with that, so no arguments there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I said, okay, but if we're gonna do that, right? If we're gonna make that commitment, if that's the
Hmm.
the route that we want to go, like
Hmm.
I gotta work. Like
You
I
gotta lock
really gotta
in.
work. I got to lock in. And so, and the thing about, with being an employee is that, at the end of the day, there's a ceiling, right? And so you could only do so much, right? Depending on the industry, right? But
Right.
for the most part, where I was at, I was working in pharmaceuticals. Like
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't make any more money, right? Without spending more time, right?
Right.
And so for me, I just said, okay, like let's see if I could, make more money doing video content for other businesses.
Right.
And so that's long story short, that's how it started. And then I struggled, right, as most people do in the first year. And I joined this program. It's called Master Filmmaker. So Master Filmmaker, I joined that program and I hit the ground running. And they were the ones who kind of said to me, hey, you got to like niche down into something, right? Doesn't matter what it is, but you want to niche down. Because I was doing video content for like moving companies, for the farmers market, for car wrap businesses, like anyone. And these are great businesses, great people too. But like it just, I wasn't making, the type of money that I needed to make. And so
Right.
when I joined this coaching program, that's when I got the idea. Okay, well, like where do I niche down? Like how do I do that? And probably within like a month of joining that program, 2 attorneys in Sacramento, where I live, hit me up back to back. I was
Really.
like, oh, like, okay. And the reason why I chose them is, obviously like, lawyers make a big impact, right? And a lot of them
Right.
care truly about their clients. But let's be realistic about this, right?
He
The two
wanted that
things,
bread.
yeah, I wanted that bread.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the thing about it too is that like attorneys, like they have to be marketing, right? They have to be advertising because and think about this, like think about like the conflict of interest, right? Let's say you're a business attorney, for example, and you see 2 business partners, like you see them kind of arguing. You can't like ethically go up to those 2 and say like, hey, I see you guys are fighting, like here's my card, like I'm a business attorney. Like there's a bit of like an ethical thing that, when it comes to attorneys, right? That's just an example, but you always want to make sure that you're top of mind for people. So that way, when the things do happen, right, they get into a car accident, slip and fall, right? Then they think, okay, this guy, I remember this person. He was an attorney, right? Like, like he helped one of my friends. And that's what it takes because, if people don't know that you exist, then you don't exist,
Right.
So that was one of the 2, pretty much the 2 reasons, right? The money and also they need to be marketing.
Right.
And again, the third one is really the impact, right? Because when I did some videos for attorneys, part of the videos that I do is testimonial videos, and I would speak to their clients, their past clients who got great
Right.
results, right? And they just were so happy, right, with working with that attorney. And I could tell that the attorneys that I worked with, that they cared about their clients, and their clients were, just they truly wanted to get past this bad thing that that happened in their life. They wanted to get past it, like
Right.
leave it behind and just start over. And so the law firm or the attorney that they worked with, they were able to do that with them. And so it's big, man. It's big. And so having a video content or just having something in place to showcase that for any potential clients, any potential leads, it's game changing, right? Like
Right.
it's really going to help you, attract more clients to the firm. So
Fair
if you
enough.
think it's if you think it'd be a good fit, right? Like,
Right.
yeah.
And then, what's the most? I mean, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but what's the most exciting part of your job? Because obviously, you're working with law firms and you're making video content for them, and the
Yeah.
content is one of the direct reasons why their firm could potentially grow is because they have that social media presence. But to you, again, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but what are the most exciting parts of your business or your job basically now?
My I didn't think this was gonna happen, but I think it just kind of happened naturally. I love the I love I love I love getting them through the like past the finish line. And what I mean by that is I love it when someone becomes a client of mine, right? Because when I go through my process, right, when it comes to discovery, like when it comes to specifically like not just sales, but just like finding out if I could help them or not, that's when I understand like, hey, like what's going on with the law firm, right? Like what are you doing right now currently with your marketing and your approach to getting more clients? What are you doing that's working and that's not working? just to see if we could like even help, right?
Right.
And then once I find that like, hey, like this isn't working or this is working, but once I find a way for me to say, hey, based on what you told me, this is going to be sort of like our plan of action, right? Right. If you want that change, right? And because I always tell them like, hey, like if everything's going great with the law firm, you're landing clients, the conversion rate, the ads, everything is going good.
There's
I'll
no
be the
need to
first-
change. Right.
Yeah, I'll be the first person to tell you keep doing what you're doing, right? But if you need a change, right, and if you're committed to change, right, and if you're done, you know, like dealing with XYZ, right, and not getting results, maybe it's time for a change, possibly. And so for
Right.
them to actually take that step forward and say like, hey, like I want to be the type of business owner, the type of law firm, the type of lawyer that's going to do something about this, then for me, like that's the most fulfilling thing. Because
Right.
now like they're going, and I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but now they're going from good to great, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
you know this, like attorneys, right? They have sort of, you know, they can't have a big ego, right? So they don't
Right.
want to admit, that, you know, that things could be better. But it's like, yeah, like I understand, like we're just trying to go from good to great,
It's great.
right? But and you know this too, right? Like have you heard the phrase, good is the enemy of great,
Yeah.
right?
I
And
feel it. And then how do you come up with the creative ideas for your clients' videos? Because obviously, you know, the legal industry is from the base view, it's a somewhat boring industry if you're not in the
yeah,
industry or in the know-how. So how do you
yeah,
come up with the creative ideas for your clients
yeah.
to spice up their online presence or in this case their video content?
Yeah, yeah. So I'll do you one even better, right? I'll touch on that, but I want to share something with you, and this is something that I sort of like share with, you know, as many clients as I can. But
Please.
let me know if you could see my screen, and if we can't, hopefully we can upload this. But it's all recording. But let
Okay.
me share my screen, and then let me know if you could see it.
Sweet.
Can you see this right here?
Yep, I can see your screen.
Yep. Okay, perfect. So this right here, Mullah, like this is a typical funnel, right? Very basic, right?
Right.
Now, this applies to law firms, but like anyone watching this, it could apply to your business. It could apply to anyone's, you know, a service business, whatever, right? But in a funnel, right, we have the bottom of the funnel, right, BOF. We have the middle of the funnel, right? And then we have the top. Okay. Now, most businesses, right? And I'm not saying that this is for every law firm or for every business, but in general, most businesses, they are good right here at the bottom of the funnel, right? Someone calls the law firm, right? You qualify them, right? You have your intake specialist speak to them, or maybe you speak to them. And then after that call, either they become a client or they don't, right? But essentially, like we force them down the funnel so that way they become a client, right? So
Right.
that's the bottom of the funnel. Now the middle of the funnel, that's going to be all the organic, you know, content, right? So that's going to be your testimonials, your brand video, your short form videos, frequently asked questions, anything entertaining, anything informational, all that organic content that happens in the middle. Sometimes people like to call it the messy middle, right? Because it's very messy, right?
Yeah.
Now, the one above that is going to be ads, right? Because in order for people to see all that funny, educational, organic stuff, well, they need to have heard
Find you
about
first.
you.
Yeah.
They need to find you. They need to be aware that you actually exist. So that's where the ads come in. So, so what we offer, right? And it's just, and anyone can do this, right? Like I'm showing you like our strategy, but you could do this. So what we offer is this part right here, which is the organic and ads, and we do it in video form, right? It's all video for us. So now, obviously, with ads, right? When we're sticking with ads, there's going to be a certain percentage of people who watch your ad, and they're going to go straight to calling you, right? But the vast majority of them won't. That's just how it works, right? The vast majority of them, they'll hear about you through an ad, and then they'll slowly work their way down, right? And then once they're consuming your content, once that accident happens or that thing or whatever, that inciting incident happens or whatever, that's when that's when they're going to think about you, right? Because now
Right.
you're top of mind. So
Right.
to answer your question, like how do I come up with content for my attorneys? Well, it's going to be different, right, for each one, because every law firm that I speak with, it's a little different, right, in terms of like the type of content. For example, like if you're, let's say you're an estate planning attorney, right? So then that content is going to be different than a personal injury, two different
Right.
practice areas, right? So it's going to be different. But I would say, you could basically, essentially, I don't want to say copy and paste, but you could see what other attorneys are doing and copy that, because the reason why is because it's gonna be different because you're saying it, right, and you have your own spin to it. So a
Right.
lot of the times, like, you look at what people, you look at what's trending, right, or you look at what someone else is doing, and you can kind of have your own little touch on it, because
Right.
at the end of the day, like, it's just content, right? It's all just organic content. It's gonna grow with you, and it's gonna compound with you over time. But you need to have both organic and video ads as well, right? You can't just
Right.
do one or the other. Like, you have to have both, right?
Right.
So I hope that helps. I hope that that makes sense. It
Yeah,
does.
that makes perfect sense because when you mentioned that middle of the funnel, the first personal injury lawyer that I thought of was Mike Rafey on the YouTube. Even though I'm not really in need of a personal injury lawyer, I'm trying to work with personal injury lawyers, but
Yeah.
essentially on YouTube, obviously I'm subscribed to his channel, but essentially
Yeah.
I just learned so much about the personal injury business and the space.
Yeah.
And just the thought of if I ever were in an accident, that's the first person I'll think of to call because one, I've built that relationship with them via his content that he only had to make once and it's there forever unless
Yep.
YouTube disappears someday. So yeah, that made really sense. That made really that made perfect sense. I don't know why I'm forgetting to speak. And then the other question I had for you is like, what is
Yeah.
the what is the most important thing that lawyers should understand about using video for their marketing?
Um, that's a great question. Um, I would say that it's not going to fix everything, and what I mean by that is that, you know, we could get you leads and clients and create all this, content for you. But if you don't have like a system at the bottom of the funnel, right, of actually like retaining and actually closing clients and whatever your
Right.
close rate is, if you don't have that set up, then like it doesn't matter, right?
Right.
Like we could run ads for you and get people to call you, but like if you don't answer the phone call, right, or if you don't, they call it speed to lead, right? So
Right.
once someone opts in, once someone shows interest
Right.
into your law firm, you have about like 3 to 5 minutes to reach out to them.
Facts. Mm-hmm.
So it's speed to lead, man. So, yeah, like the videos are great. Like they'll definitely help, right? They're not. I don't think they're gonna hurt your business, but it's
Right.
not gonna be like the thing that really changes after. You have to have certain things, systems, and processes set up
Yeah.
prior to investing in video, right? And that's the same for everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the
Yeah.
reason why there are certain attorneys that I can't work with because they just don't have things set up, right?
Right.
So that is why we go through our discovery process, right?
Mm-hmm.
'Cause just like attorneys, right? Attorneys are the same thing. I do the same thing, right? It's like you
Right.
can't go up to an attorney and just say like, hey, like, how much is this going to be, or like, what can you do for me? The attorney's going to be like, well, shoot, I don't know, like, tell me
What
more about your
happened?
case. Yeah,
Yeah.
what happened? I need to know. It's the
Yeah.
same thing with us, right? Same thing with you and me. It's like, yeah,
Right.
like I could potentially help you. I don't know. I'd have to learn more about sort of like your marketing, your like what you've done in the past, what's working, what goals you have in mind, right? For me
Right.
to even make that assessment.
Right. That makes perfect sense, especially when you mentioned that speed to lead thing, because
Yeah.
what we're trying to do at Retric Solutions at my company is to build different AI systems that help lawyers bridge that gap, right?
Yeah.
Because, like you said, if it takes you longer than 5 minutes to contact every single lead that comes in, the less likely you are to close them into a paying client, right?
Yep.
So that's the bridge we're trying to fix with AI, like for example, AI voice assistants or any AI system that could qualify or contact the lead as soon as they come in. It will be so valuable to law firms because that's where we've seen, at least through my research over the last year, that's where most lawyers are losing a lot of their leads. Because last year I spent all of my time just window shopping different lawyers or law firms and see how their client acquisition process is like. And I was so surprised how the bar was so low because, yeah, they reached out to me, but it was a few hours later. By that time they reached out to me, I even forgot that I did that secret shopping test on their law firm. And then I'm like, I didn't call you. Who are you? Blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? So that
Yeah. Yeah.
made perfect sense. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And then another question is, what can videos do for a law firm's business other than just the general marketing that you, like you said? I want you
Yeah.
to focus more on the nurturing side of the
Yeah.
potential leads.
Yeah, and it's the whole like Alex Hermosi thing, right? They need to know,
Hmm.
like, and trust you, right?
Right.
So if you could get someone to know you, like you, and trust you,
Hmm.
the chances of them closing are it's like it's so
Right.
high, you know.
Yeah.
And that's just what video does, right? And like
Hmm.
I don't know if I have to explain like how important like it is to nurture people with video because
Hmm.
video content in my eyes, it's like you look at guys like Gary Vee.
Hmm.
Who else? I mean, geez, there's so many. Alex Hermosi, we mentioned. Like
Right.
those guys are at the top, right?
Hmm.
And they're not. I don't even know if they're really running their business.
Right.
Like I feel like all they're doing is just creating video content, marketing
Right.
content, and then
Hmm.
like they have systems and people in place to
Hmm.
run everything else. So
Hmm.
video content just it truly just you could use it for personal branding, you could use it for
Hmm.
educational purposes, whatever you need. But for me, I
Right.
think all it does is just it breaks down that wall so that way people can trust whatever the heck that you're selling. So again, it doesn't have to be
Hmm.
for law firms, but
Hmm.
specifically for law firms, you know, lawyers have a negative stigma to them, right? That they're just greedy,
Hmm.
right? They're
Yeah.
ambulance chasers.
Hmm.
They're only out for the money, right?
Hmm.
They're yeah, fill in the blank. And
Right.
so when you have video, yeah, so when you have video content that showcases who you are, why you're
Hmm.
different, right? And again, who you are as a person, that just
Hmm.
breaks down that barrier, breaks down that wall. So then that way people, again, once they need you, right,
Hmm.
they remember you,
You're the first
right?
person. Yep. That makes
Exactly.
perfect sense because if you're thinking about especially buying something that's expensive, you're going to watch reviews on that product first before
Yeah.
you buy the thing or do your research on Google reviews and all that stuff to make sure that the company that you're planning to invest such a exorbitant amount of money on, they're, you like and trust them, you know what I'm saying? So that makes perfect sense. And then so another question I had is on the other aspect of things, what do you think will happen to law firms who don't use video content or any sort of social media presence in their strategy to grow their firm?
Oh man, I don't know. That's that's a hard question to answer because you know there are a
Hmm.
lot of law firms out there who've been doing this for decades, right?
True.
Who've been in the game, right?
Hmm.
Now, I can't speak to them because it's like you
Hmm.
know they already have their retainers or whatever. You know they're good, right?
Hmm. Right.
Um, but the law firms who you know are just starting out, right, and
Hmm.
who say, you know, I'm not going to do the social media thing. I'm just going to
Right.
rely on word of mouth,
Hmm.
right? Um,
Right.
well, good luck, right? You know, and what
Right.
I would tell them honestly is I would tell them, hey, follow my Instagram, right?
Hmm.
You could get a lot of free content there, right?
Hmm.
You know, YouTube University, right? Because
Right.
at, 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 at any point of a successful business, you have to
Hmm.
go from like relying on word of mouth to doing advertising and marketing,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
That's all that social media is. That's
Right.
all it is. It's just, you know, it's just attention, right? That's where people are, right?
Right.
You know, like, yeah, like I see billboards all the time with attorneys, but I don't always, you know, look up or remember them. But
Right.
I'm on my phone all the time,
All
right?
the time.
You know, we are.
I
We're all
think.
on our phones all the time.
Right.
So, social media is definitely something that's it's not going anywhere, right? Just like
Hmm.
AI, it's here to
Right.
stay. It's not going anywhere. So,
Hmm.
yeah, you could definitely, you know, not take advantage of it, right? Or you
Hmm.
could, you know, put a system in place, a strategy in place
Right.
to make sure that it benefits, you know, your long-term
Hmm.
goals, right? Because
Right.
it's not going to be for everyone, right? Like us specifically, like we don't
Hmm.
work with any law firm, right?
Right.
But I do think that every law firm should, right? If they have the capabilities, they should be on social media and they should be doing, you know, some type of video content, right?
That's fair. That's fair. I have this saying that I like to say on my content. I don't know where I stole it from, but when it comes to the AI side of things, I don't
Yeah.
think AI will replace lawyers. The thing that will replace lawyers is other lawyers who are leveraging AI. Does that make sense? So that's
Okay.
how I feel like the same with the content, because unless you are Morgan and Morgan and you have the capital to blanket the market with ads all over the social media, whatever, it will be it will be so difficult for you to try and grow your new law firm, like you said, because you're going up the stream instead of down the stream. Does that make sense?
Mm. Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
so true. So true.
And and then you said you had a few clients. So can you share a
Yeah.
few success stories? Because I
Yeah.
feel like helping a law firm, make videos or with AI in my case, and then seeing them actually get results from the type of work that you've done for them.
Yeah.
Can you talk me through that? Because obviously I've never experienced that yet because I don't have any
Yeah.
clients at the moment. But just walk me through how is that like the success stories and all that stuff.
It's honestly like the best feeling in the world, right?
Hmm.
To recently one of my clients, he messaged me and he's like, "This is working." Like I'm getting
Right.
calls, I'm getting people
Uh-huh.
calling me, and
Hmm.
so he had done Facebook ads or Meta ads before.
Hmm.
Um, he had never done anything like like big like billboards or anything, but
Right.
he never could get people to call him, right?
Mm.
And so I ran a few ads for him on Meta, right, which is Facebook and Instagram, and yeah, he's been getting still to this day getting leads from it. So
Hmm.
that's probably the most fulfilling thing. And you could go on my Instagram, watch some testimonials, and I'll actually probably be recording some more testimonials in the
Hmm.
near future here. So by
Right.
the time this is out, maybe I'll have some more up. But um, I would say that's the biggest thing. I also have people like talking about how it is working with us, right,
Hmm.
and that process because a lot of a lot of people, for example, right, one of my attorneys, he actually built a studio, right? He
Mm.
built a recording studio for
Hmm.
video content, right,
Hmm.
to do podcasts, to do that's just like any content, right,
Hmm.
and he still hired me, right?
Hmm.
So like I, it's really cool because it's like even though he has the capabilities and he has the gear and he knows what he
To
needs to
do it
do,
himself.
he
Yeah.
still he still doesn't have the time, right?
Right.
And
Hmm.
so and even for me personally, right, like I've sometimes I haven't invested in certain things because I was
Hmm.
stubborn, right? And you know this, like you either pay
Hmm.
with time or you pay with money, right?
Right.
And
Hmm.
so if you're if you're an attorney and you don't have the budget for certain things, that's totally fine. But now you're gonna have
Hmm.
to pay with time, and you're gonna have
Right.
to learn it yourself, right? Or
Hmm.
you could find the funds, right? Come up with
Hmm.
creative ways, right? Become resourceful, right? We don't
Hmm.
rely on resources, we rely on our resources. And so,
Hmm.
come up with the funds to be able to
Hmm.
afford a service like this, right? Because that's what the successful lawyers and
Hmm.
business owners do. They come up with funds, they come up with
Hmm.
ways to become resourceful. So,
Hmm.
to go back to your to the original question, when it comes to my clients, I try and make sure that I'm delivering on what I say that I do. I'm under promise, over deliver, right? So I think my testimonials speak for themselves. I value all my clients, even my past clients, right? The ones I
Hmm.
was talking about before, the car rapid, the moving company, like because
Hmm.
all those were just stepping stones, right?
Right.
So
Hmm.
you have to make sure, especially in what we do. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know, like let me let me talk a little bit about like what's called the trap, right? The agency trap, as
Yep. Yep.
what's
Go
called.
ahead. Go
You know
ahead.
what I'm
Talk
talking
to me.
about, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
so the agency trap is essentially, let's say you're a law firm and you reach out and you start working with a marketing agency, right? That's
Hmm.
generating leads for you, generating clients, right?
Hmm.
So what typically happens is that in the very beginning, you start getting those leads, right? Everything's honky dory, it's great, right? It's
Hmm.
awesome. But then
Hmm.
over time, what happens is that someone, maybe the account manager, they end up leaving your account to go help a
Hmm.
new client, and then you get
Hmm.
stuck with like someone who's not as good, right?
Hmm.
And then every now and then they'll bring in that old account manager, and then they'll that success manager, and they'll start getting you more leads, but then
Hmm.
they'll leave again,
Hmm.
and then you're stuck with more bad leads.
Right.
And so you end up leaving that agency, that marketing agency, and you work with another marketing agency, and it's the same
Hmm.
thing, right? You
You
just loop
kick
it
it
in.
to. Yep.
Exactly. So, for me, what I try and do, right, the next, I guess, ascension for my business is to be
Hmm.
able to implement like a lead generation strategy into the law firm,
Hmm.
because a law firm
Hmm.
that has its own internal lead generation system strategy
Hmm.
is more valuable than a law firm that doesn't,
Hmm.
right? So for me, like that's going to be sort of like my next thing is being able to almost be like a consultant, right? And to be able to come into a law firm, see what's going on, see what their goals are, what their marketing needs are, or even like or even like their sales needs, whatever it might be, and then
Mm-hmm.
help them solve it. And then once they solve it,
Boom.
I'm out. Like
Everything's
I'm out.
good.
Like everything's
Yeah.
good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I hope that answers your question,
Yeah, it
but yeah,
does. And when you were explaining your thing, it's kind of like I'm starting to see how similar our business is because before, like I want to say late last year, around June, I might be wrong, but essentially, I did get my first client. She ran a family law, like divorce and all that stuff, but she was from the UK. And
mm,
this was a completely new firm that she just got her bar exam, I think, a few months prior. And she was
yeah,
just, getting started. And as a naive owner, I was just like, sure, let's work together, you know what I'm saying? But
yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't understand how much work it would be to get a brand new firm up and running. Does that make sense?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
even though I was building the AI systems, without the lawyer or myself feeding it leads, it doesn't do anything. It's just sitting there, right?
yeah,
And then working with a brand new law firm, the experience was amazing, but it was just like I felt like I was gonna die because she was heavily relying on me to again deliver on my promise, and also on my end, I didn't prepare for how much work it would be. Like you said, making sure all your sales systems are in place, making sure everything else are working smoothly. That way, the AI systems will perform. So it's kind of crazy how similar our business are now, and obviously. In hindsight, it's 2020 now. I'm way more prepared to work with future law firms by making sure one, they have everything else in place. That way, once I come in to do the audit first, we make sure what aspects of your firm do you need a few tweaking or you need to solve for. That way, the AI system is working like a supply chain. It's all smooth. Does that make sense?
yeah. And you could do that with like when you do your ads, right? Like for
Mm-hmm.
example, and I'll do two scenarios, right, or two
Mm-hmm.
examples, so it make more sense. So the
Right.
first example is like with my own business, right? So when I
Mm-hmm.
started running ads for attorneys or running ads to get my clients to get
Mm-hmm.
attorneys, I was getting a lot of attorneys who were calling me who were just starting, right? Or maybe they were at a firm right now and they were
Mm-hmm.
thinking of leaving the firm and starting their own, and they wanted
Right.
to do video content, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, no offense, but when you're doing that, right? When you're leaving to become like an employee to an
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur,
Right.
yes, like you're taking a lot of risk, but the thing that you don't have a lot of times is the mindset of
Yeah.
taking more risk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they just weren't qualified when it came to
Right.
budgetary constraints,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what I did in my messaging is I added in my messaging like if you're an established law firm,
Established.
established, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
in my questionnaire, I'd ask like, hey, are you an established law firm, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if they said yes, great. If they said no, please leave, right?
Yeah, you don't
So
qualify.
right there, I'm creating these friction questions to qualify
Mm-hmm.
people, to qualify my clients ahead of time. So that's one
Mm-hmm.
example. The other example is going to be, let's say, like attorneys, right? A
Mm-hmm.
personal injury attorney. Now,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be different for every count or every
Practice
I think
area. Mm-hmm.
every practice area. But let's say
Mm-hmm.
for example, personal injuries, personal injury attorney. Um, the uh, the grace period, or like the time where you have to file certain claims, or like or just start a lawsuit, a case, is
Mm-hmm.
2 years, right? So
Right.
2 years. So then in the ad you could put, hey, like when did this accident occur? Was it over
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago? And if it
Mm-hmm.
is, automatically it just disqualifies them,
Yeah.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
so that way we're filtering them out. And
Mm-hmm.
so the reason why I bring that up is that because a lot of times people don't understand that you could do that. Like you
Mm-hmm.
could get as targeted as you want, and you
Right.
could really make sure that like you're getting quality leads coming through
Mm-hmm.
the pipeline. And that's why,
Right.
again, going back to my funnel, imagine if they're already qualified like that, and then they're just
Mm-hmm.
absorbing and consuming your content, and then they're
Mm-hmm.
just going down the funnel until they actually call
Mm-hmm.
you. That's the call to action. And then
Mm-hmm.
now it's up to you, if you have the systems in place, to
Mm-hmm.
close that client and to have them
Right.
become a client of yours. So yeah.
Yeah. That's some good tips, because again, in hindsight, it's 2020. But when I first got that first client, again, she's from the UK. So another uh, problem was the time zones. When she was awake, I was asleep, and vice versa. So when she text me on Slack, I would be half asleep. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it was just like again, through watching Alex Hormozy's stuff, it's way easier to get an established firm a 10% growth compared to somebody starting from zero. Does that make sense? So that's
Yeah.
what I was struggling with. And again, like you mentioned, and in hindsight, it's 2020. I learned that the hard way. And again, I learned so much from that firm and working with that firm, but it was just like, I need to put that, that those friction questions on my, sales floor or whatever to kind of pre-qualify leads before they come into my business. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And then another question I wanted to ask you. So, again, law firms or legal professionals are so slow when it comes to adapting new technology or trying something new. So, in your business, how did you overcome that? Because that's the main struggle I'm trying to overcome right now is pitching the idea of, yeah, the AI systems will work for you and you need to adapt to it. But again, some firms are stuck on the old ways. So how did you overcome that challenge?
Pain.
Pain?
You have to build pain, right? Because the only time anyone ever changes is because of two reasons, right? Because of pain, right? They're in pain
Mm-hmm.
right now, or fear of future pain,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's the only reason why anyone ever changes. It's because of pain or fear of
Or
future
future
pain.
pain.
So, when I believe that like, I try to do this, right? And it's funny because like we're creating content right now.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that I do for my attorneys, for my lawyers, like I wanna do that all for. I wanna like. I wish I could just take everything in my head and my brain
And
that I
just
do
give
for
it
my
to you.
and just give it to
Mm-hmm.
any attorney, all attorneys, right? Whether you
Right.
have money or not, or whether
Mm-hmm.
whether you're just starting, whether you just went into law school. Like I just want to tell you how I do everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is because like anyone can do this, right? Like you could set up a camera, like your phone, anyone can do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving you the strategy, like anyone can do it, but it takes time, right? And so if you're okay with, using your own time to do it yourself and learn, great, that's fine, right? But some attorneys, right, some law firms, they don't have that time because their time is limited, right?
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that's sort of like some of the pain that you have to dig into, right? Like how much like because you do you value, like for example, right? Um, when you get near to the end of the call, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like attorneys will say, "Cool, I'm just gonna speak to
My
some other video
partners.
agents, more
Yeah.
partners, like
Yeah.
some other AI agencies out there,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
not partner. It's more so like I'm gonna look at other vendors
Other
just to
firms. Okay.
compare,
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
other vendors, other service
Mm-hmm.
providers to just compare, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I like to ask, okay, cool, and like how many, just be real with me, but like how many vendors are you looking to speak to, right? It's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
maybe like 3 or 4. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and like why not like 5 or 10 or
Mm-hmm.
20, right?
Right.
Obviously they'll say, well, that's too many, right? So yeah,
Right.
and like you could just be on the phone, like from
Mm-hmm.
now until the end of the month
Right.
with this with like different vendors every single day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like what's causing you to kind of like, spend more time trying to find a solution rather than just solving the problem,
Mm-hmm.
because and right
Right.
there it's just like you don't like, do you value your time? Of course you do,
Right. Mm-hmm.
right? And so to answer the question, you said, like how do you get people to kind of like get out of their old ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people don't want to, right? Sometimes
Okay.
people believe, right, that like the best thing to do is to continue on with what they've been doing. And like I said
Mm-hmm.
earlier, if what you're doing is getting you the results that you
Mm-hmm.
want, I'll be
Right.
the first person to tell you. You and I will be the first person to tell
Right.
that law firm,
There's no
keep doing
need to
what you're
change.
doing. No
Right.
need to change. But if you're looking for better results, right? If you're looking for a change, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
want to get rid of that pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it might be,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then, let's have a conversation, right?
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to be for everyone, right? And that's the thing with sales. That's why I love sales, is because it's like you can't close everyone,
Right.
And I'm not trying to. All I'm trying to do is like have a discussion and
Mm-hmm.
really like have a dead serious discussion about your business and whether or not you want to continue to keep going, right?
Right.
So I don't know.
Where did you grow up, and how was it like living there?
Oh, great question. I mean, so I'm 36, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually born in Houston, Texas.
Houston. Okay.
Yeah, Houston, Texas. My parents, I'm Filipino, and
Mm-hmm.
so I lived there for like the first 11 years of my life
Mm-hmm.
was in Houston, Texas. And then
Mm-hmm.
my dad was he worked for a company called Texaco.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he'd been doing it for a long time, and he wanted to retire and get into sales. He wanted to
Mm-hmm.
sell cars because that's like my
Okay.
dad's like passion is cars, right?
Yeah.
So um, so we ended up moving from Houston, Texas to the Bay Area, California. And
Mm-hmm.
so that happened back in 1999.
Okay.
And so and then pretty much I never went back to Houston. I never
Yeah.
went back to Texas. I just love California. It's like I consider it my home. I tell people,
Mm-hmm.
I was born in Houston, but when I
Mm-hmm.
talk about my home and like who I am and the like who like I guess what I represent, like I would say it's like the Bay Area, right? So
Okay.
that's usually where I tell people I'm from. I'm from the Bay Area. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah. I mean that's pretty much it. Pretty much grew up in the Bay Area in San Ramon, right,
Mm-hmm.
California. So yeah, just pretty typical, childhood. It's just me and my brother. My brother and I
Mm-hmm.
we're 7 years apart, so there's a bit of
Okay.
an age difference there. But
Mm-hmm.
when you move to a different town, to a new home, to a new town, new city, like you don't really have anyone. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty close with my brother, right? We both have
Mm-hmm.
kids, and
Yeah.
so yeah. I mean that was life growing up, and my parents are currently right now they're retired, so they are enjoying the the fruits of their labor, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like that's what they're doing, and they're
Yeah.
enjoying their grandchildren. So
Right.
I have a lot to be thankful for, and I look up to my parents as well. So yeah, just it's a solid question. I love it because to to get to the places that you want to be, you kind of have to remember where you come from, right?
Mm.
You have to always
Yeah.
acknowledge that that you started from a certain place, and then like
Right.
and you want to get somewhere else too, right? Like we're not
Mm-hmm.
just going to stay in the same level. We want to level up, and so
Right.
always being grateful and thankful for where you come from. So, but I'm sure you know all
Exactly.
about that, Mula. Yeah.
Yeah, man, because this is my home country. I'm from Kenya. Moved
Uh
here
huh.
when I was 11. So kind of
Yeah.
similar story, moving to a new country, a new city. You
Yeah.
don't have anybody. As in, like, for us, we were kind of lucky because my aunt and my uncle lived here already. So we kind of had some
Mm.
sort of base to
Yeah.
kind of stay with before my parents get on their feet and get jobs and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
I really understand what you said when it comes to moving to a new city and feeling like
Yeah.
you don't have anybody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And what were your favorite things to do as a kid? Were you always into video or?
No, actually. Well, that's a good question. I wasn't like most people where like, when I got for Christmas, we got like an Xbox, right? My
Hmm.
parents got me an Xbox. I don't
Yeah.
play video games. I don't play video games. I've never played video games. It's never been my thing.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Uh-huh.
never been my thing. Um, and so I told them to return it so that way we could get a TiVo, because
Mm.
I wanted to record shows and movies. And
Right.
so I guess like from a young age, I was definitely always into movies, film.
Mm.
Um, never really thought of like doing it, but I just
Hmm.
I love the entertainment part of it, right? I like scary movies,
Hmm.
comedies, rom-coms, right? Like I like a lot of
Yeah.
romantic comedy movies, like but
Okay.
yeah, that's kind of like my the things that I like to do. I just like to stay inside, watch TV, watch movies.
Okay.
So yeah, yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And you said you have was it an older brother or a younger brother? Older brother, you said,
Older, yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And is it
yeah.
just you two, or do you have any other more
Yeah.
siblings?
Well, here's the thing, man. Like, yeah, it's just my brother and I, but I'm
Hmm.
Filipino. So,
Right.
so I have so many cousins. Funny
Cousin,
enough, this is
yeah.
a funny story. So
Uh-huh.
my wife and I, we used to live down south in Southern
Okay.
California. And
Hmm.
shout out to Los Angeles right now because there's some
Hmm.
fires going on. But
Yeah, yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
so we lived in this apartment complex, and there was a 24-hour fitness that was close by. And
Hmm.
I was just playing basketball, right? I hoop. I like to play basketball, and I was playing basketball with this guy, and he was like, "Hey man, like you want to play 1-on-1?" And I was like, "Sure." And he was a shorter guy, right? I'm like 5'11". He was probably
Hmm.
like I don't know, 5'6", 5'5". Like he was
Hmm.
so I had some length on him, right? Pause.
Right.
But I had some I had some height on him. So he destroyed me. He was really shifty, really good. I was like, dude, this kid
Right.
can ball, right? This kid can ball.
Uh-huh.
And then all of a sudden he's like, hey man, like, do you know so and so? And he was talking about my cousin, right?
Mm-hmm.
My cousin, and I was like, yeah, like, how do you know him? And he's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
he's my cousin. I'm like, oh wow, that's so interesting. Like, he's my cousin
Small
too.
world.
And then
Yeah.
we kind of thought about it, and we're like, wait, who's your dad? I'm like, who's your dad? And
Yeah.
then like we were just kind of connecting dots, like talking about like uncles and aunts that we both knew. And I'm
Yeah.
like, this is crazy. Like, can you imagine just going to the park playing basketball, and all of a
With a
sudden then you
random
realize
dude. Yeah.
we're the
Uh-huh.
random. I've never met him before in my life, and we're blood related. We're
Right.
related by blood, right?
Uh-huh.
Not by marriage, by blood.
Right.
And so,
Damn.
the reason why I bring that up is because you asked me about my brother, and like, yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
it's always just been me and my brother, but I feel like because I'm Filipino and because I have so many extended
Mm-hmm.
family, like so many cousins, I just feel
Right.
like I grew up with like, a ton of siblings.
Yeah, I'm the same way because before we moved to America, it was like all the holidays would spend together as families. I was talking to my uncle the other day how we both miss the Christmas seasons because we would all be bunched up in my grandpa's house making all the
Yeah.
noise and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
being in the same household as all my cousins, older, younger, just making hella noise for my grandpa, it's kind of like I
Yeah.
sometimes miss that because you
Yeah.
have that sense of community, but moving to America, it's all about your house, my garden. Don't cross that border because you know what I'm saying that's my personal property and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
sometimes I miss that community, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
No, for
And then
sure.
what kind of student were you in school? Like were you top A student? Were you just like coasting through?
Oh man. I live by a motto.
Yeah.
C's get degrees. Right, C's
Mm.
get degrees. So, now with that being said, right, like there's another thing that they say, like never let school interfere with your education, right? I think Mark
Yeah.
Twain said that.
Hmm.
So, um, although I wasn't like the best student, right, I
Hmm.
was, I knew a lot of people, right? Like it
Yeah.
was one of those things where like near the end of like senior year in high school, for example, like
Hmm.
I would go down like any
Hmm.
hall, and I would just like know everyone. I'd say hi to everyone, right?
Yeah.
And so, I was a good student. I definitely paid attention, right? Especially
Hmm.
when the time came. But I also have to recognize too, like I went to a really good school.
Hmm.
If you look it up right now, where I grew up, San Ramon,
Hmm.
it's one of the top high schools, not just in California, but also in the nation, right? So,
Really?
and what's crazy, I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know
Hmm.
that I was going to a really good high school. I just was like, all right, I'm just going to public school, right?
Regular
It's a
day.
public school.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then little did I know that, oh, that's actually
One of
really
the top.
nice. Like it's one of
Yeah.
the top. Like I had no idea. So I would say I was a pretty solid student. Like I never really got into any trouble or anything. I kept my head down for the most part.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to have fun, man. Like so. That's just
Fair
I still
enough.
do. I'm still kind of the same. Right? A little bit.
Fair enough. And did you ever think you'd own a business when you were a kid? Were you into like anything entrepreneurship wise, or were you just like, you know what I'm saying, doing your thing?
No, I mean, well, because I'm Asian, so they want you to be a doctor, a nurse,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
lawyer, whatever, and that's
Mm-hmm.
fine. But like for me, I just I always I knew I maybe was probably gonna go into sales, right? In
Mm.
some way, in some form.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Which is funny because after college, I got a sales job at Yelp. We all know Yelp.
Mm. Yep. Yep.
And man, I was there for 12 months, and
Mm-hmm.
I'd sold one client, one person. So it
Mm.
was really bad. I was really struggled
Mm-hmm.
doing that particular type of sales, right? Which was like
Mm-hmm.
cold calling. So,
Okay.
um, now, like, did I know I was going to be a business owner? No, I didn't know. I didn't know. But I knew I wanted to do something where I was sort of like, I started a club in
Mm-hmm.
college, right? And
Right.
so I wasn't the president. I was like the vice president or whatever. And so, but people don't realize like how much work the vice president actually does in a
Yeah.
club. Now, I'm not talking about the government, but I'm talking about like
Right.
when you're starting a club. And
Right.
and the thing is too is like when you're that high up, you have a lot of leverage in terms of power, right? Because you could tell
Hmm.
people like, hey, like I need XYZ done, right?
Right.
And so I'm not going to say that I like the power, but I like the ability to make an impact in that
True.
way.
True. Yeah.
So it happens all the time when I, I've worked retail before too, right? I've worked at
Hmm.
Borders Bookstore, 24 Hour Fitness. I
Hmm.
worked at Home Depot. When you're at like the bottom, it's necessary. You need to be a cashier. You need to work in retail. Like we need those jobs. But the thing
Hmm.
is, like as you move up in a company, the more power you have to actually make a change when it comes to giving more value to the customer,
Right.
to the client. So
Hmm.
like again, to answer your question, I didn't know I was going to be a business owner, but I knew I wanted to make an impact and help people, right? I wanted to give
Okay.
some more value. And
Hmm.
really, honestly, like the only way you could truly do that, like really do that and be committed to it is by being a business owner.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Well, that's all the questions I had for you. Again, thank you so
Cool.
much for your time. Anything
Yeah.
you want to say? Where can people find you? Just go ahead and mention that. I'll also leave the links in the description, but go ahead and
Yeah.
do what you got to do.
Yeah, for sure. Well, again, my name's Dan DeLeon. I own Sattown Video. I primarily work with lawyers, law firms. But yeah, if you have any questions, like I said, my Instagram, you'll share it. But
Hmm.
yeah, if you have any questions, hit me up on Instagram. That's usually where you could reach me, or you could shoot me an email, and you can even text me. I'll probably have my phone number there too as well. But yeah, thanks for having me on, Mula.
Yeah, no problem, man. I can't wait to see what you come up with this year. Again, I've seen some of your content online and I can't wait to see more. And then obviously we'll stay in contact on Instagram, share a few ideas when it comes to content and just business in general. And then again, thank you so much for your time, man.